Welcome back to another Build with a Plan podcast with Coach David here. And today we're going to talk about shifting your mindset to maximize your profits. In the last episode, we were talking about how many people were ready for their exit plan. Did they think that selling their business was going to be the retirement plan, or had they even considered on what they were going to do to transition out of their current business? Now, it's a big topic, and if you missed it, go back to last episode and you will see, you'll hear all that we talked about. The main takeaway, of course, is that only about 20% of small to medium-sized businesses actually get sold or transition over to somebody, leaving over 80% of current business owners with nothing from all their time investment and money investment over the years. So today we're going to talk about, changing your mindset. Most small business owners, they start their business typically because they're good at something. They were trained at it, or they had a bit of a passion for it. They learned some stuff about that particular area of business and got good at it. And typically, if you can get past the two to 3 year mark, then you actually end up owning a job. You can make it okay to a decent living, but more often than not, you will hit the ceiling of business growth and with profits, take home money. That's as if, of course, you can get past the 2 to 3 years. There's a lot of business owners that don't get past that 1 to 2 year because of failure of their business. And typically it has to do with what we're talking about today. It's hard to take the emotion out of your business. And that's what I want to talk about today. Most people, especially if it's their first business, they're very emotional about it. They put their sweat and tears and their heart into growing that business. So what I'm talking about here is, taking that emotion out of your business and start looking at, what does your exit strategy look like? When is it? Are you selling it to somebody? Are you selling it to a staff member? Are you going to pass it on to, some family? Or are you going to walk away? And you also want to think about, do you have the right key staff in place? If someone's been around for a while, you might be emotionally attached to them, but they might not actually be the right person for that position. So we want to be thinking about the key staff, your exit strategy, and what your involvement is in your day-to-day running of the business. Now, what I'm talking about here is taking a step back, looking at your business as a whole, as opposed to, your day-to-day. Let's get the job done. Let's get the product out there. Let's order, let's do the bookkeeping, let's do the staff, let's do the customer service. That is the typical day of a small to medium-sized business owner. They're so caught up in running the business and making sure that they're making their customers happy that they're not able to take a look at their entire business, where it's headed, what are the pitfalls coming, or what can you do differently? So what I want you to do is look at your business as an asset and take the emotion out and look at it as an investment that you're putting your time, your money, and your effort into, because eventually most people, of course, some people might do it just because they love it and they're okay at the end, depending on where they are in their life right now. They might be perfectly happy just to ride off into the sunset, running a business and then closing at the end. But a lot of us, we are growing a business that is actually should be turning into an asset, an investment on your part. And usually what you want from an investment is a return. A return on the investment. A lot of times you put a ton of time in that, a lot of effort. And of course, over time, you are putting monetary investment in there. So what you need to do, so what I want you to start thinking about now is, what do you need to do differently than you are right now? Of course, again, I want you to take that step back so that you can take a much better look at your business and understand what you're doing and what you're not doing. Okay. I want you to think about, who do you need to hire? Or maybe even, who do you need, what staff changes do you need to do to make sure that you're going to get that return on this investment? And then more importantly, what do you need to learn to make sure that you're able to step back and build this business into a valuable asset where you can get that return? Now remember, most of us, you know, self-included here, we're talking over the years, in my previous business, I grew it. It was a passion of mine. It was something I had done. I was a graphic designer that turned into marketing and printing and large format printing. But the problem with that is I was in the day to day. I didn't look at it. Of course, I called it a business. I said, oh yes, I own this business. But really all I did was I owned a job. And the job actually did reflect the staff that I had as well. They counted on the business for their livelihood. But the problem was I was so day-to-day emotion into the business that I wasn't able to take that step back. And I never had an exit strategy. And when I ended up burning myself out, I was left scrambling on what I could do with the business. And what I ended up doing was selling it for far less than it was really worth. I did have some key staff in place, but I certainly was involved in the day-to-day. So that's how I know firsthand that these are the things you need. This is the shift you need to do in your mindset. Grab some books. Don't just listen to me. There's lots of books out there that help you to shift your mindset. Okay? So the first thing you need to do, again, is you have to say, okay, I'm going to take the emotion out of this. You have to step back, pretend for the moment, or in your mind, step back and say, if I was going to buy this business, what would I do differently? How is this business set up? And is it set up to be profitable? And can it be something that you would want to buy in the first place? So what you do is take the step back, look at your business as a whole, look at it as an asset and an investment that you want to return on. And then ask yourself, what do you need to do differently? What staff changes do you need to make? And what do you need to learn to make sure that you are effective in making those things happen? I don't usually talk too much about the mindset, but it is super important. I usually talk about strategies and what you can do differently. But this is how I want you to start thinking differently. Think of your business as an asset and an investment that you want a return on. All right. Till next time, this is Coach David. Thank you for listening to Build with a Plan.